Hello everybody, this is Debo. Debo's movie reviews here, and this week's review will be Chisum, starring John Wayne as John Chisum, Forrest Tucker as L.G. Murphy, Ben Johnson as James Pepper, with Christopher George as Dan Nodine, along with Glenn Corbett as Pat Garrett, Andrew Prine as Alex McSween, Bruce Cabot as Sheriff Brady, Patrick Knowles as Henry Tunstall, with Linda George as Sue McSween, and Jeffrey Duell as Billy the Kid. Which, of course, was with the character John Wayne played, was also the character that James Coburn played in Young Guns 2. For this is basically a take on the Lincoln County War, but not through the point of view of either Billy the Kid or Pat Garrett, but through Cal Baron John Chisum, who sided with Tunstall in the Lincoln County War following his death. And in this movie, a very inaccurate portrayal, because as the movie version was portrayed at Tunstall as an old man, who the real Tunstall died at 24, along with, that's about like with Terrence Stamp in Young Guns 1, with the gray hair. But of course, a lot of people seen that for as Tunstall was a mentor to Billy and try to put him on the straight path and all, until of course Tunstall was wrongly murdered, which in this version just taunted by Murphy men in a fake arrest by crooked deputies. By that I mean they shot him and then planted a gun, in which Billy knew of all people that Tunstall was not a fan of guns, because he was too far of a Bible thumper. Whereas this was also a cast reunion for Sansa Iwo Jima, which of course was had John Wayne, Forrest Tucker, Richard Jekyll, and John Agar, who plays Amos Patton in the movie. And of course, had also a take on it, with especially epic intro with the song at the beginning, and then of course throughout the movie had like the song "Settling Down" by Merle Haggard. And also mention that this movie also features Christopher Mitchum as Tom O'Follard and Ron Silva as Charlie Waldry, who were also rode with the Kid, whereas Beaudry was portrayed by Cassius C. Moscow in Young Guns 1, and Tom O'Follard was portrayed by Balthazar Getty in Young Guns 2, which, of course, in that version was the even younger kid who rode with him, and which of course this version doesn't have a version of Chavez E. Chavez and or Arkansas Dave, let alone definitely no Doc Scurlock and Chisum. But of course I gotta say, for a bit part in Young Guns 2, I'll say Coburn kind of was superior to the Duke on this one. And I'm just saying that, I'm not just saying that because I seen Young Guns 2 first, long before Chisum, but hey. But hey, when it came to westerns, can't go against the Duke. But this was not one of his best performances for a side character. But I gotta give it to Forrest Tucker. He played a damn good villain in this one. I mean, he just knocked it out of the park. But hey, when it came to westerns and such, Forrest Tucker wasn't a bad was very underrated and not a bad actor. I mean, always played his part. I mean, whether it was a comedic role or a drama role. With personal favorite being Sergeant O'Rourke or an F Troop. About my favorite role of his. And then of course there's others like this and Saints of Iwo Jima, which I'll get around for a later review sometime later on. But overall, I gotta say one thing. I must admit that Jeffrey Jewell was definitely no Emilio Estevez when it came to Billy the Kid. Which overall, I can say, which can't argue, the best portrayal of Billy the Kid was Emilio Estevez. Though I do give Audie Murphy and Kid from Texas an honorable mention, but I have to get to him on a later review. You know, do a rewatch, catch it on whichever streaming service I got, but I still say Estevez kind of beats Jewell, but which I should also mention how Chisum was one of the last movies of Bruce Cabot, along with Big Jake and Diamonds Are Forever. But overall, I gotta give Chisum a 4 out of 5. I mean, great acting, but kind of lackluster cliche action and kind of mixed emotion on the idea of making a movie about Lincoln County War, but not from the point of view of Billy the Kid or Pat Garrett. Whereas, like Young Guns, kind of knocked it out of the park, but I gotta give it. I'll also mention excellent portrayal by Andrew Prine, who was, for those who don't know, was also the cousin of singer John Prine. Yeah. It's a little odd tidbit. I had an info dump out there. But I definitely consider Chisum the movie a 4 out of 5. I mean, just great cast, great, good enough action for a G-rated movie, which of course G then versus compared to now. But yeah, it's overall in one of the Duke's most iconic roles. With great direction by Andrew McLaughlin, and written by Andrew Finity, who also was a producer and co-creator of The Rebel. But overall, 4 out of 5. Alright, y'all. I hope y'all like, subscribe, and do comment some recommendations, and I'll get to them. But I'll keep dishing them out when possible. Alright, y'all, that'll do it for this week.